Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel! And of course, makadurn na pod mo! Char! This is the part 2 of our video, which was all about biology. We all know that cell biology or cytology is the study of cells. And now, let's proceed to knowing the history of cells. But before anything else, I would like to thank my previous students, most especially to Monte Claro, for of course having this nice PowerPoint presentation. I do make some changes of it, but of course dominantly they are the one who make this PowerPoint. So thank you so much. And I'm eating right now because I'm quite starving, you know. So without further ado, tama ng chismes. So let's start. History of cell. We all know that cell is the basic unit of life. So let's start. Who discovered cell? We have Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke, in 1665, he discovered cell from a cork made from a bark of an oak tree. When we talk about cork, kasi may nakakita cork. It is usually what? Used to tabon-tabon the bottle, diba? That is the cork. So, he was curious, so he gets a little piece of that certain cork. And of course, he saw this what we call tiny or small room. Therefore, he coined that certain room as what? Cell. Because when we talk about cell, literally, it means what? Selda. Kulungan. So, more siya kulungan. So, therefore, he coined that one, or he first coined the term cell by, of course, observing cork. That is Robert Hooke. Next. So, ito yung nakita ni Robert Hooke, o, di ba, para siyang room na gagmay. Okay, that is the cork cell. And we also have Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Of course, mas nauna sa kanya si Robert Hooke because in 1674, he discovered bacteria in the gunk of his teeth using his homemade microscope. So he later on discovered if Robert Hooke discovered dead cells because of course it is from cork, therefore the cells are already dead. But here in Anton van Leeuwenhoek, he discovered of course living cells. And he called this one, or he coined this one as what? Animalcules yan. Hindi animalcules yan. Because what? He was the one who first to see individual cells using simple microscope and coined them as the living units of life. So that is Anton van Leeuwenhoek. So next. So, ito yung simple microscope na ginamit ni Leeuwenhoek. I really do hope that dominant of you already use microscope, even compound microscope. It's quite amazing. And you know what? Not because of this pandemic, we could be able to use microscope. We'll have an activity using microscope. So, next. So, let's fast forward to 1800s. We have this Robert Brown. If Robert Hooke 1665, if Anton van Leeuwenhoek 1674, we have Robert Brown of 1831. He discovered nucleus. What is nucleus? It is the largest organelle in an animal cell. We also have Matthias Schleiden. In 1838, he discovered that, of course, every single plant has a cell. Again, Matthias Schleiden, he discovered what? That plants do also have a cell. How about animals? We have Theodore Swan. In 1839, he discovered that all animals have cell. Again, Matthias Schleiden, he discovered that plants do have cell, and Theodore Swan for animals. And of course, if we will make it into a graphic organizer, you could really see this what we call timeline. From Robert Hooke up until Theodore Swan and Matthias Schleiden. So as you can see, this somehow, what we call this one, briefly discusses the history of cells. And of course, the cell theory. Before we proceed to the cell theory, let me ask you, who first discovered cell? You got it right. Tama. Robert Hooke. How about this one? Who discovered that plants do have cell? You got it right. Matthias Schleiden or Schleiden. And now let's proceed to the cell theory. I know that we do have a lot of theories that, of course, we discuss or we encountered in our life. And one of those theories is the cell theory. So let's start with the first one. All organisms are composed of one or more cells. We have prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Later on, we will define what are the differences of the two. Next, the cell is the basic unit of the structure and organization in organism. Because if we go through the what we call this one structure, diba? The basic unit of life is cell. And of course, the group of cells, we call that one as what? Tissue. And group of tissue, we call that one as what? Organ. And a group of organ, we call that one as organ system. And group of organ system, we call that one as organism. Therefore, cell is the basic unit. And of course, all cells come from pre-existing cells. Because cells, even if it is sex cells or just our cells in our body, it goes under the process of what? Mitosis and of course meiosis. Next. And now, let's know more on the nature of the cell. So what you can see, it is the what? An illustration of the cell together with its organelles. So, can you tell me if it is plant cell or animal cell? You got it right. It is an animal cell because in the first place it is what? Round. Because you could really compare later on the difference between plant and animal cell. Organelles, so we will have a separate discussion about these organelles. So we have cell membrane, cytoplasm, lysosome, nucleus, mitochondrion, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, Golgi body, vacuole, nuclear membrane, centrosome. And now, let's go directly here in eukaryotic cell. Because we have actually two. Eukaryotic and prokaryotic. So, we have eukaryotic cell. So, what is the difference between the two? Eukaryotic, it has nucleus. While prokaryotic cells don't have a nucleus. The best example of eukaryotic organisms are what? Humans. Because our cell has nucleus. While compared to prokaryotic, it doesn't have nucleus. Therefore, the best example of prokaryotic is rather bacteria. Even though they don't have nucleus, but they do have nucleotide wherein it contains their genetic material. So let's compare eukaryotic and prokaryotic. So let's start with eukaryotic. Eukaryotic are cells that contains a nucleus and organelles and are enclosed by plasma membrane. Organisms that have eukaryotic cells include protozoa, fungi, plants, and animals. While on the other hand, prokaryotics are unicellular organisms like bacteria, They lack organelles or other internal membrane, most especially nucleus, but instead generally have a single chromosome. We call that one, or it is located nucleate on the what we call that one as nucleotide, and of course a piece of circular double-stranded DNA located are the cell called nucleoid. Next. And of course, we have the bacteria as model of prokaryote. So of course, bacteria. So ito yung sinasabi ko. So see the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic region. So actually, it is not nucleotide, pardon me. It is nucleoid, where the genetic material of the prokaryotic organism, of course, contain nucleoid. So of course, some of their differences, prokaryotic, again it is unicellular, much smaller than eukaryotic, and of course has larger number of organisms. While on the other hand, eukaryotic, or as humans or other organisms such animals and plants, they are multicellular, but some of them are unicellular. And of course, our cell are much bigger than those prokaryotic organisms. So those are the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic. We started from history of the cell through, of course, knowing the nature of the cell, and of course, comparing prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. I really do hope you learned something out from this video. This is the part 2, and of course, wait for the part 3 wherein we will discuss the cell organelles. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe on my channel, and of course, this is your pogging instructor, Mark John M. Martinez.